Hello and welcome to a very special lesson on the lottery curse. What happens when you win the lottery? Everyone has their hands up. One of the biggest fears that people have past the fear of failure is the fear of success. They're worried about, am I going to change? How my life is going to be different? Am I going to be a different person? Will I like the new me? And we kind of go through these phases, and I went through this phase too. I'm like, will I like the new me when I have all these women in my life? I'll be a completely different person. And you know what? I have changed in a lot of ways because I have less stress in my life and I'm way happier. But I still have the same hobbies and passions. I just get to spend more time doing them and less time worrying about girls, as crazy as that sounds. So I want to take you through what the lottery curse is and how to actually endure and win and get through this, because it's really important for what you're going through, because you're in a transitional phase. Your life is about to change and there's going to be some bumps on the road. There really are two types of men in this world: those who get laid as much as they want and the frustrated masses. And moving up in the world comes with some unique challenges because you're so used to being one of those frustrated guys, one of those guys that wishes they had more women in their life, wishes they were with someone they were really attracted to, just wishes all these things, right? We want to be more happy. We want to have better experiences. We want to have better quality women in our life. We want to be with someone amazing. And when it finally happens, when you transition, you're going to go through some things and you need to get ready for your new lifestyle. And then we go through the 3 butterfly phases, which are really important to understand, because if we're not aware of what's happening, you could really get knocked off the path with one bad conversation, one bad experience. You start off as a caterpillar. This is who you are right now. And anytime you do self-development or try and improve yourself or your life in any way, you start off as a caterpillar. You go through the chrysalis. This is also called the cocoon. I don't know the difference between a chrysalis and a cocoon, but I think moths do cocoons or something like that. But the idea is that you're in this super vulnerable state where one bad conversation or one hurtful person can knock you back into caterpillar status and destroy your chance of being a butterfly. When I first wanted to get better with women and wanted to do things, I actually read a book. That's how I got better. I used to be awful too. The first thing I did is read a book about how to be better at talking to women. And one of my friends, he went around telling everyone that I read this book and I was trying all these lines from a book on girls, in our social circle, and girls that I was meeting at the bars we'd hang out at. And it was really painful to me, and it kind of hurt me because I was trying something new. I was trying to make myself better, and his actions were pushing me back towards caterpillar. So I had to kind of pull away from that friendship for a while until I was fully in a butterfly. Once I kind of was used to talking to women more and more, and even now, once I've got really better at my bonding system, and what you're going to go through is the same thing. Once you kind of get really good, and it's going to take 2 months or 3 months to get really comfortable with the transition and kind of change your habit and become someone who has a habit of dating beautiful women, then people's comments won't matter as much. But when you're in the chrysalis phase, if someone says something, look at Jonathan, he's just trying to date younger women because he's going through a midlife crisis, or he wants to be cool so bad, look at him, it's so sad watching him date younger women, right? Those little comments can be really hurtful, even though really, at the end of the day, I now as a butterfly, and you're going to get here too, I don't care what people say about me now. I'm like, look at Jonathan, he only dates models. That's not an insult. To me, that's awesome. Great, fine. I only date beautiful women. I only date the best of the best. I have my perfect lifestyle. So during chrysalis phase, people's comments can be hurtful, or making the wrong decisions can make us vulnerable, and I want to prepare you for that, because that's really the lottery winner's curse. The real curse is that you're in this phase, you're going to start dating tons of beautiful women, and people around you are going to say things or put you through special challenges you haven't thought of. So I really want to prepare you for success, because that's one of the things that can blow your mind. If you're one of those guys, imagine you're one of those guys that's never really had success with women. You married a girl from college and it really didn't work out. You had a kid or two, and you guys got divorced, and she kind of was always shitty to you anyways, but you thought it was the best you could do. And then 2 weeks from now, you're dating 3 different girls in college that all know each other, and they're all super hot, and they love you and look up to you and respect you and look to you for mentorship and ask you for advice on picking their majors, and kind of are heavily in your life, and you're hanging out all the time. Everyone's going to think, who's this guy? Who does he think he is, right? they're going to want to hold you back because they're afraid of losing you. Because caterpillars are friends with caterpillars and butterflies are friends with butterflies. And so people are afraid of losing that friendship. So you're transitioning from old to new, and your two personalities, these two guys, right? The guy who kind of is sexually frustrated and the guy who's getting laid all the time, those are two different people, and you're going to transition from one into the other. And for a while, these two personalities are going to collide, and they're not always going to be congruent. Sometimes your old personality will peak out, and sometimes you'll go through moments where you're like super confident suddenly because you're having all these amazing successes with young women. So should you act like the guy who only dates women who are age appropriate, or the guy who's dating tons of younger, stunning women? And while you're going through this chrysalis phase, this cocoon phase, this is one of the biggest challenges of success, is when success is fresh. Because also, a lot of your friends and people in your life, and we're going to dig into each different type of relationship you have, are going to think it's an exception. See, if you date one model, people think, oh, it's an exception. And they'll start doing things that might even fuck you up in the other direction. Maybe like, man, you're never going to get a girl like this again. You got to lock her down. They're going to push you into a state of neediness. They're going to infect you with their neediness and break your mind state of abundance. If you think, hey, I can get 10 more models, it's not a big deal, you'll be comfortable. But as soon as you start acting weird because of the whispers of your friends, you can start blowing your relationships because they're trying to get you to act like a caterpillar when a butterfly is who got you the amazing girl. So be ready to kind of deal with that and be prepared for your friends not knowing what to do. They're going to encourage you in the wrong ways. I remember a classic example. One of my friends read the same book I did when I lived in London, and to get really, really good at talking to women. And he was amazing. And he walked up to a girl, very famous, okay, super famous. If I said her name, you'd know exactly who she is, from a really famous movie series. And he walked up to her and was so smooth and got her phone number and everything because he was so confident, and he really studied how to be better and better with women. And then one of his friends, who was a total caterpillar, walked up and said, oh, my friend Sam, he's so nervous. He really just wanted your autograph. So the guy who thought he was being helpful killed my friend's chance to date this girl. She'd already given him her real cell phone number. They already had something really cool. And people that are caterpillars don't know how to be around butterflies. They don't know what to do. So a lot of times their behaviors will be terrible. That's why sometimes the challenge of bringing a really hot new girl into your life isn't her. It's all of your friends who don't understand how to be around cool people, how to be around high-level women like you are. So some of the challenges you're going to face are also things like a broken schedule. You know, a new hobby can steal your calendar. When you're having fun and you're out on a date, when you're out on a date with someone you don't like, or with a normal girl you met off like Match.com, you're on a classic traditional date, and you go out and you have to pick her up, and you go to a dinner, and then you take her home, and it's kind of like really boring, and you're suffering, and it's so crap that you try to end it as quickly as possible. You try to do just enough to get a second date, and then get out of there. But when you're out with a girl and you're having 2 drinks and she's 22 and she's so cool and you're just having a blast and you're just bonding, and there's none of those like awkward, stupid questions or playing mind games or any of the boring shit that sucks about dating. You're just out having fun together. Suddenly you're going to go, you know what? I never go to dance clubs. Let's go to a dance club. I want to party all night. And suddenly you're hanging out with a 22-year-old until 6 a.m. Why? Because it's fun. Bonding is fun, or you're up all night in bed and she goes, hey, why don't I bring one of my friends over? Let's just have a threesome. You seem like you guys had tons of threesomes. Let's have another threesome. And she's going to assume, that you're this new butterfly guy. You're going to party all night. And what's going to happen when you do this, you're going to have so much fun, you're going to be having so many adventures, your hobbies are going to fall away. I mean, would you rather go bowling or spend the night with this new hottie that's in your life? You're going to be up all night, and you're going to realize beds aren't just for sleeping anymore. And before you realize it, you're going to be getting half as much sleep. So you're going to kind of put aside your hobbies and other things that used to be important, like meeting your friends to play video games online, or going to whatever your kind of hobbies are. They become less exciting than having fun and spending time with really beautiful, young, awesome, intelligent women. And so you're going to kind of have a transition and go through a phase where you're going to disappoint some friends because you found something that you enjoy more. And that's okay. I just want you to be prepared for that, so that when you have to make these decisions, you kind of have your eyes open. It's so much easier. And man, you're going to be so tired. Sleeping with a different woman every night for a week can make you exhausted. And you're going to have to learn to budget your time and maintain your health. Because at first, the whole world's about to open up for you. When you realize how powerful this system is and how effective bonding is, it's going to blow your mind. You're going to go from a guy who has access to a couple of women you're moderately attracted to a guy who has access to hundreds or even thousands of tier 1 women. Really good looking, really young, really high level, high intelligence women, high value. So suddenly you're just going to want to be like, you're like a kid in a candy store. It's like, wait, all the candy's free? And you're going to end up like in Willy Wonka's, you're so excited, you're not paying attention, and you just wear yourself out, and you end up falling into like the Oompa Loompa River or something. And I don't want that to happen to you. So just be prepared for success, and kind of be prepared for the curse of being tired because you're spending too much time having too much sex. And one of the really dangers that I want to warn you about a lot, because this has happened to a lot of my friends, is that your work suffers. You've built up this successful life because you've worked so hard and worked that now you can get all these beautiful young women. Don't lose yourself. It can be heady to start getting so much attention, but you don't want to lose track of the work that supports your new epic lifestyle. Having work is the reason you have your house, the reason you have your car, the reason you have the money to go out and party. So don't let that fall to the wayside. And I know it can be really hard to focus on work when she's right here on your computer screen looking so hot, and it's really tough, but you kind of want to separate work and play. That's why I said I really stay away from the hot girls that want to like be your PA or get involved in your work. I try to keep my dating and my work as separate as possible. Even though my work is about dating, I still try to keep that firewall there, because I know that it can hurt your work, it can hurt your income, you'll be partying so much, you're having so much fun, you decide to take days off work. When this girl, she's in college, she can miss classes. We all blew off classes in college. So if she's like, hey, don't go into work today, just have sex with me, I'll call one of my friends and she'll come over. It's going to be really hard to not call in sick to work or blow off that important meeting. So just really, really try hard to firewall those two parts of your life and take care of it. You're also going to go through some massive culture shock, because the world is changing and young girls are crazy. They do so many things. Even when I was 22, which is only 11 years ago, the world was completely different. When I was in college, internet was dial-up. There was no Facebook yet. MySpace was just starting, but not really. People didn't text. There were no apps. Smartphones didn't exist. That's where I went to college, okay? And I'm only 33. So now girls have a totally different thing. She's always texting. She's going to live on her phone, and she can't seem to spell a single word. Everything's going to seem like it's a code language. Every word is 3 letters and emoticons and numbers and all these things. You're just going to have to get used to that. If you have only dated women over 35, you probably haven't even encountered one of these texting maniacs, but I deal with it all the time. I'm used to being out with a girl and she's texting and social mediaing like crazy. If she's not tweeting, she's taking pictures of the meals that you buy for her and take her out to dinner, and she's throwing them on Instagram. She's taking selfies and doing all these other things. And you just kind of got to get ready to kind of go along for the ride. One of my friends, he started bonding. One of the first guys started bonding with me a couple years ago. He had to learn how to text. I had to teach him. Because the girls, he'd call them and they would never answer. He's like, she doesn't like me. I'm like, no, she likes you. She just doesn't know how to talk on the phone. She's not used to that. When I was in high school and I wanted to ask a girl out, I would call her house and her mom or her dad or her brother would answer, and I would have to ask for the girl. I wasn't rotary dial, but it almost feels like describing it now, and hope that the girl's home when I called. Otherwise, I got to call back later or hope she calls me back and my mom answers the phone or something. So, my big freedom in high school was when I got my own phone line in the house or when I got a pager. So now it's so different, but we just got to get used to that. And the cultural references, she's going to be talking about reality TV and the Kardashians this and the Kardashians that a mile a minute. And maybe she's never even heard of a great movie like The Goonies or Brian's Song if you're a little older. She has no idea about all these different things. One of the girls that I date, she's only 20 and she's never seen The Goonies. She's never heard of all these things that I grew up on. She doesn't know anything about the 80s or even the early 90s. And so all of her cultural references are different, and that's what you're going to do with girls whose all of her cultural references come from the last 5 or 10 years. And she's going to have a lot of ignorance. She's going to be unaware of a lot of things. She won't know about that there were actually 2 different wars in Iraq, or that there were 2 different presidents with the last name Bush. She might not know anything about those parts of history. Blame the public education system if you want, but a lot of people don't know about things. Young people are very unaware of all these things that you might have been alive for. And so don't see that as it's not her being stupid. That's the wrong mindset. I want to prepare you for that. If she doesn't know the last president who was assassinated, she's not stupid. No one ever told her. And so it's your chance to enlighten her. She's not ignorant. She's just inexperienced. She hasn't seen any favorite movies. She's never heard of Bruce Springsteen. She's never been on a plane before. Maybe she's never seen snow. These are not flaws in her personality. This is what I want you to really lock down on. This is the key to breaking through the lottery winner's curse. She is an opportunity for you to re-experience all those things for the first time together. Okay? Do you remember the first time you saw snow as a kid? You get to relive it with a hot young girl the first time she sees it. Her excitement will feed into you, and that's what's awesome. You can show her the Goonies together or whatever your favorite movies are. That's not even my favorite movie. That's just a great one I was thinking about last week. And you could show her this movie that you love and you've always loved your whole life. She's never seen it before, and bring her into your world. And you can teach her all these things. That's why this girl wants to be with an older guy. She realizes that there are holes in her social and historical knowledge, and you can fill them, and it's such an opportunity. There's nothing like being with someone the first time they experience something that you've always loved. That's what's really great. You get to show her great restaurants, great movies, great music, teach her about history, share kind of your life experience. Suddenly all that stuff that always seemed like it's just your life and it's a bit of bullshit, suddenly it's valuable. She's someone who sees your history, your knowledge as gold. Whereas you date someone the same age as you and they just see it as boring history. That's what's so awesome about dating a younger girl. The lottery winner's curse can be a real benefit. Now, I mentioned this a few minutes ago, old friends. Some of your friends are going to try to clip your wings and make you stay a caterpillar. They're afraid the new you won't like them anymore. That's what you have to understand. If you can understand their motivation with everything they say, they're afraid of change. Most people are afraid of change. Okay? If all of your friends are just like you, and this is something I went through, okay? I used to be terrible with women until I read that book and until I really developed my bonding system. Imagine that and it's probably not that hard to imagine, one guy and you got 3 best friends, and all 4 of you suck with women. You've all been through a couple of shitty relationships. You're all pretty unhappy. You're mid-40s, whatever, maybe even late 40s or 50s or 60s, wherever you are. And you guys have all had a similar life. And suddenly, one of your buddies just starts banging models like crazy. Okay? His life dramatically changes. Your thought is going to be, wow, good for him. And then your next thought, like half a second later, let's be honest, is what about me? What about me? And you're going to say, where are my hot young girls? And when your life doesn't change and his is changing, you're going to think he's going to stop wanting to be friends with me. And it might be subconscious, but then you'll take actions to stop him and be like, hey, dude, you're really embarrassing yourself. You're going to say something like that. People say crap like that. That's a line that people use to stop other people from growing and flying away from them. So just be ready for that. And let's talk about some specifics to make it easier. One of the biggest challenges, if you have an ex-wife, there can still be some hurt feelings there. Depending on how amicable your divorce was, your ex-wife may go through a series of emotions: jealousy, anger, and bitterness. She's a reliable car that suddenly she thought when things ended that you would never change. She's assuming that you'd never change, that no one else will want you, or that you'll have the exact same value. And suddenly you're showing up in a Ferrari. That's going to be really tough. She might complain to you or your social circle about the appropriateness of the women you're dating. That's a pretty standard ploy for a woman to say, oh, I can't believe he's trying to date younger women. It's so inappropriate, or he just looks so lame, or it's really sad. And really what that is an expression of is not an expression of reality of your situation. What you're doing isn't sad. What you're doing is awesome. Dating a beautiful woman is good. There's no negative to that, right? So she's expressing her feelings. And I want you to just be aware that she's going through the emotions and they have nothing to do with you, so that's what she's expressing. So don't let someone else's feelings of inadequacy limit your happiness. Remember, we talked about this earlier, pre-selection. If a woman sees you with a really attractive woman, she assumes you're more attractive. So if your ex-wife sees you with a 19-year-old model or a 22-year-old college student, she's going to think, what did I miss? Why does this girl want to be with him? And she's going to want to destroy that, because otherwise she has to admit that she lost the opportunity to be with a great, awesome guy, which is you. You don't want to actively shove your new lifestyle in her face. You just want to give her time to get used to the fact that other women think you're a catch. If you've got kids or you have to still interact with your ex-wife on a regular basis, don't. It's so tempting, especially if you guys had a pretty negative breakup. I know I've gone through this with my breakups, where you just want to show her your next hotter new girlfriend and shove it in her face. Don't do that. At least wait until you have kind of been doing this for 90 days. and kind of are really in the zone, and focus, instead of focusing on the negative of the past, just focus on having the best life possible. There's no revenge greater than living an awesome life. And that's one of the biggest life lessons I've learned. I've had people in my life that have done horrible things to me, and I've been through some bad experiences, like everyone. And you know what? I don't talk about them. I don't even feel like telling you any specifics right now, because that's the past, and my life is so good. My life is so awesome. That's my revenge. Good living is sweet revenge, so focus on that. If you have coworkers, I mentioned before, it's really important to keep work and play separate. If you work in an office and that's where you have a big part of your social circle, it can be so tempting to want to kind of show off all the new hotties and tell them at the office, all these girls you're dating or how you met them, but you don't want to do that. It's really important. This is a big warning here. Keep your private life private. There are plenty of men at work who will be upset that you're out breaking the rules and dating women that are out of your league. And they'll feel it's their responsibility to make sure that everyone at work is as happy as they are. I know so many guys in my social circle, so many friends and guys I've talked to, that people at work found out that they have an exceptional lifestyle, and then they ended up in front of HR. They were always having problems with the people. It became an HR nightmare. It became a PR nightmare. They had to fight to defend their reputation at work. It started up, and it's just because people are jealous. People that are in a long-term monogamous, unhappy relationship, there's nothing they hate more than a guy who's developed the skills to bond, because it's a critique of their entire lifestyle and it's a critique of their unhappiness. People want everyone around them to be as happy as they are. People hate change. So I just recommend the easiest thing is to keep work and play separate, because when the two things come together, it's going to cause you a lot of stress. Over time, this is something that you can ease into. If you work in one of those places where you're constantly going to like work picnics and doing social events as work, over time you can slowly bring like a girlfriend to events and things like that. But if you can, I recommend doing whatever you can to firewall work and play. Keep them separate. What about your male friends? These guys are going to be jealous. Your male friends are going to be really jealous, and most of them, at first, they're going to be really impressed by your turnaround, but during your transition phase, in your chrysalis, they're going to think each girl's the exception, and they're going to say, dude, this is the only model you can get. This girl's so hot, you got to lock it down before she realizes what a loser you are and tries to break up with you. That guy's voice is wrong, because you're awesome. And it's not that this girl is the exception. She's the first in a series of hot women that realizes how badass you are. So, these guys might think that it's luck or that it's an exception, but it's not. So don't get sucked into their flawed mindsets. You have a funnel. I've helped you develop a system that's replicable so you can get as many hotties, as many hot, young, beautiful girlfriends, short-term relationship, fuck buddies, whatever you're looking for as your heart desires. During your transition phase, before they realize that you are now a badass, these guys can be the biggest threat because you're expecting them to be supportive. And when they're not supportive, it kind of throws you for a loop. And that's why I'm warning you in advance, because if you don't expect it, it could be like a punch to the face and it can knock you down. Now, what about your friends' wives? And you talk about a whisper campaign, right? If you're the guy who shows up at the group barbecue with a 20-something every week or a different 20-something every week, your life is going to become a critique of these women, and they're going to start a whisper campaign against you. Because the last thing they want is for their husbands to start thinking, you know what, I could trade my wife in for a younger model. That's like a fear. And you also don't want to break up any marriages, okay? So you don't want to cause that either. But you want to wait to bring your new girls around your friends until you're locked into your new personality and lifestyle, so that when you show up and your friends' wives start saying negative things or start a whisper campaign doing whatever they can to convince you that you need to date someone old and less attractive so that they feel better about themselves, you're ready for that and it doesn't hurt your feelings, doesn't affect you. You really want to keep your dating life separate from your old social circle for as long as you can. Same with work. This isn't as hard and fast as it is with work, but it's just easier to avoid these awkward scenarios for a while. You're going to discover that when you go out to bars and restaurants and you're with a beautiful woman, and people are going to think you're cool and people are going to want to spend time with you, you're going to start developing a new social circle even if you don't want to. And we're going to talk about that in a moment, but just be ready for that. So what about your female friends? They don't want to feel old. Here's something that's amazing. You right now in your life, I guarantee you there's a woman in your life that you're attracted to that put you in the friend zone right now. I bet you can think of who I'm talking about right now. And for some of you, it's more than one woman, right? That woman put you in the friend zone, said, hey, you're not good enough for me, or our friendship means too much to me to ever consider doing more. all those women who trapped you in the friend zone for years or even decades, when they see you with a hotter woman, it's a total critique of their missed opportunity. They're going to be attracted to you suddenly, and they're going to start thinking, wait, if these younger women like him, there must be something I missed. I missed my opportunity. So there's women that have ignored you for so long, they're suddenly going to be into you. And they're going to start saying you need to be with someone age appropriate. They're going to start dropping hints. Okay? Don't fall for it. I'll tell you what happens right now. If you have a woman in your life you're attracted to who's like 40, and you show up with a 19-year-old who's super hot, and she convinces you to break up with a 19-year-old, and you end it with a 19-year-old, and then you start spending time with this 40-year-old, she'll stop being attracted to you again. It's a trick. Do not fall for that. Do not lose your young new girlfriend just because someone that you've had a crush on for a while tries to trick you, because her attraction for you is totally based on competition. When the competition disappears, her attraction disappears. Don't waste your time. Because when you're dating a younger woman, it tells the women in your social circle that their sexual market value has gone down, and that now it isn't that they're too good for you, you're too good for them. You're not even trying to get her. You're trying to get someone 10 times better, and you're succeeding. And suddenly her ability to lord your attraction over you and use it to manipulate you, to do all the things that women get guys to do when they're in the friend zone, help her move, help her with her taxes, all those kind of things, suddenly the roles are reversed and you have no interest in those things, right? You aren't going to fall for those things, and she doesn't have that power over you anymore, and she's not going to like that. So just be ready for that, and be ready to realize that you've wasted so much time on the wrong women. So just pull away from those situations. Now, if you have kids, these are the people you care most about in the world, and I understand that. That's so important. Don't introduce your kids to the women you're dating for as long as possible. If you get into a monogamous relationship or a long-term relationship with a woman for a while, then once you're kind of in that phase, it's okay. Obviously, if she's a really serious part of your life. But until you get to that situation, there's no need to bring tension to two main areas of happiness. There's no reason for your kids to find out you're dating women that are younger than them, or to have to deal with that for as long as possible. It's just not necessary. Would you rather have your kids not know about your new girlfriend or have them hate her? That's really the challenge. Just keep them separate. That's really better safe than sorry. If you have a close relationship with a son, and you know your situation better than me, it's just, we kind of have this temptation. It's like when we buy a new car, we want to show everyone our new car. That's the best part of a new car. I'm just trying to kind of warn you about these different situations that a lot of times, and it can be, the words from your kids can be the most damaging when you're in a chrysalis, because their kind of feelings about you are really, really important to you. You really want them to respect you, look up to you, and those things. So spend time developing your new personality, new lifestyle first, so that you can have the lottery success without having to deal with the curse, so it doesn't hurt you. And there's some other things to think about. This is one of the most exciting parts, is new friends. Everyone you meet after today will assume that you've always dated stunning younger women. They will expect the new awesome you all the time. They're going to expect you to always be a butterfly. The people you meet now will like you more and respect you more, so you'll be tempted to gravitate towards them more because they're the ones who are supportive of your new epic lifestyle. If you can hang out with your old friends who are always telling you, oh, you're so lucky that girl's dating you. Once she realizes who you really are, she'll break up with you. Or do you want to hang out with someone you met 2 days ago who just happens to work in the bar you took her on a date, and the manager of the bar, he's like, man, you're so cool. You date younger women. I love hanging out with you. You're such a great guy. You're going to be so tempted to gravitate towards your new friends, and just be aware of that. And you're going to go through this transition phase, and you're kind of going to be tumultuous and go back and forth while you figure out the new you, while you kind of develop the new exciting you that's dating young, beautiful, stunning women and kind of happy all the time. So as long as you're kind of aware for it and ready for it, it's not a big, dangerous deal. And your new friends are going to be awesome, because who doesn't want to be friends with people who think they're a superstar butterfly? These people are great, they're supportive, and they're going to totally think the new you is 100% who you've always been. People who meet me don't think that I used to be awful with women. They just assume that I've always been the legend that I am now. So that's really how I prepare you for the lottery curse. All the people in your life, the challenges you're going through, the main thing is keep your old life and your new dating epic lifestyle separate. Keep track of your time, keep track of your calendar, be really fastidious with those things, and then when it's time to kind of bring those two parts of your life together, you're going to be strong as a butterfly. If you just give yourself 90 days, and if you can do 6 months, you're going to be rock solid. Because once you've just been dating young women for a certain period of time, it becomes a habit. And once it's a habit, you're much more comfortable with it, and it's who you are. So now you're ready for what happens when you win the lottery and everyone has their hands out or everyone's trying to keep you down or clip your wings. Don't be scared. Enjoy your awesome new life.